Okay, so we'll just start with this brief exercise. So once again, what we do, you don't have to shout it out. It's entirely up to you. You can just sort of, so what you do is this time we're going to say the color as it is, not how it's written. So here we say green. So I'm going to go a bit quicker this time. Okay, so it probably gets a little bit harder for you. It's if we go a bit quicker, it may make it a little bit harder. So what we'll do now is we look at our challenge for the week. So get the brain moving. I show. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do now is, just so you can see this. So the challenge this week is going to be, I send you the other fitness tests to do. You do them periodically, and that will sort of help you every 6 weeks or so. But it's useful to throw in a different test for you to do to help you monitor where you're up to every week with different components. And this one here, obviously it depends on what the resources you can use, whether you can get to 1,000 to a football pitch. If you can get to a football pitch, obviously within the confines of lockdown, I'm well aware there's restrictions and so on and so forth. So if you can get to a football pitch, I've also got another one you can do, which might be more practical if you can't get to one. But if you get to a football pitch, if it's within the proximity of your area, then if you mark out 100 meters, and maybe go, if it's a football pitch, maybe it's about 100 yards. If you've got like one of them tape measures, great. But I wouldn't worry too much if it's, try and get as reliable as possible. So maybe you go about 10 yards, 15 yards out. But if you've got a tape measure, great. If you don't, then sort of go 10 yards or so out from the pitch. But what you do here, it's a 1,000-meter run. And what you do, you stand on the start line with both feet together. If you've got a colleague with you, great. If you can sort of train somebody else, then fantastic. If worst scenario, if you got your stopwatch by yourself, you click. The timer commences once you go. And then what you do is you run forward and backwards for 10 lengths, record the time. So you can send me that time. I'm going to send you the day, the sort of the norm. And I obtained the norm through, I sort of credit the sports scientist, Chris Barnes, because I don't have a lot of data on this, but I found something that he put together, and he gives like some data roughly for professionals and amateur where they are with this. And I won't email it to you now, because obviously if I give you the time, then you'll look at that. But what I can do is I'll show the time next week, or I can email it if you email me to give you an idea of where a pro and an amateur is. The other one as well is probably if you're struggling to get with the restrictions to get to like 100-meter pitch, then you can do at this moment in time the 100-yard shuttle, and this is 10 by 10 yards. So if you've got like a tape measure that's in meters, then just sort of do the conversion. Just probably easier to Google, say what's 10 yards in meters if you've got that, if you don't have yards in metric. But what you do, you place the cones with lines 10 yards apart to indicate the sprint distance. And this is a test of speed, agility, and an aerobic capacity. Stand with both feet on the line. someone's with you. Once they shout, you start to watch. And what you do, you run 5 times there and back. So it's 100 yards in total. Once again, I'll give you a rough time for that, and where you sort of want to be aiming for. What as well is really important that you sort of practice as well is the reaction time drills. These are really important. There's a really straightforward way of doing that. There's many ways you can practice reaction, but obviously in football, we've mentioned the first yard is in the head, but equally what's really important in the game of football is second ball and reacting. This is just an easy way. There's various ways you can do reaction drills. Obviously, there's many ways and more high-tech ways, but if you're struggling to access equipment, then one thing I do with my players, and you could really do this pretty much every day. I would emphasize this every day, to be honest, even for 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes after the warm-up. It's really useful. What you do, you get different color cones. So you get the different color cones, and you space them out 10 meters like a diamond. And if you've got someone to train with, then what you can do is they call the color. And then you've got to sprint to the cone and back. If you're allowed to train with somebody else and compete against them, then great. Do a competition, which is quite useful. Like we did this exercise here. This is based on the Stroop test, by the way. But like we sort of did this here, what you can do is change the order of the colors. So white means blue or blue means white. And that gets both, the right and left hemisphere of the brain working. So you've got to think about it then. If you can compete against someone, great, fantastic. If you can't, for one reason or the other, then even on your own. And that's quite useful if you don't already do this. And yes, absolutely, there's, high-tech equipment these days you can use. It's really good for reactions. And every football club, uses. But obviously, making the most of the resources you might have at the moment, this is a really, really good drill to do, and I've been doing it for a long time. So you can do that, in training for 2-3 minutes if you've got someone. But the challenge of the week, the 2 challenges, as I've said before, the 1,000-meter run, if you can get to the football pitch or track even, and you mark out 100 meters, and this is an aerobic fitness, and you turn and run back continuously for 10 lengths. I'm going to give you the time that you're going to email me, I'll send you the time. I'll show you the time next week that I sort of kindly, from the data was I mentioned sports scientist Chris Barnes. I saw some of his data, and I spoke to him this week because I've interviewed him on the radio, and I actually mentioned this sort of test as well. And he said that in his it's a useful test as well. I believe the FA devised this test, so it's quite useful. I know I've given you a test before, and they're all good to do 6 to 8 weeks, but every now and again, based on the situation you're in, it's good to throw a new one in there just to sort of see for a bit of reliability. And this one here, obviously, if you're sort of struggling for that, this is more speed, agility, and aerobic capacity, 100 yards. So this probably, even if you do this in your back garden, really, or backyard, so it's pretty straightforward. So 10 yards apart, and sort of 100 yards in total, recording distance. And these sort of little challenges will go a long way. So a bit like we sort of looked at the game early in the analysis, we looked at how reaction's key, speed of thought is key. I mean, fitness, great, fantastic, but speed of thought. I'm not suggesting by just doing this you're going to gain your speed of thought, but it is sort of building towards that. It does sort of contribute to do that, which is sort of key. What we'll do now, we'll sort of open up. I'll stop the recording.